Laura is also here with us to monitor that major tsunami warning in the US and Japan, a massive earthquake on the east of Russia overnight, one of the biggest in history in the last 100 years, in recorded history, and now an expectation of big tidal waves sweeping across the Pacific Ocean. And I think, Laura, first Hawaii, but then the west coast of America, expecting to see those waves hit during our programme.
Yeah, so first off, just a reminder of exactly what happened. About 6 hours ago, an 8.8 magnitude earthquake hit just off the coast of Russia. Now, this is in the Pacific Ring of Fire. We are very used to earthquakes in this part of the world, but an 8.8, this is the sixth strongest earthquake that has ever been recorded on Earth in the 125-year history that we have been recording those. So that is how huge we are talking. So first off, that hits. It's not unusual, and I looked, and in the last 2 hours, we've now had around about 15 earthquakes of magnitude 5, so it's continuing to rumble along. Then, because of this, we then have the risk of tsunamis. So there is a colossal amount of energy. The energy that's been released is 1.8 trillion kilograms of energy from this earthquake, and that goes into the water. The water absorbs that energy, and it travels at the speed of a jet plane. So it's traveling at around about 600 kilometers per hour, and that energy dissipates through the ocean around about every single coastline in the Pacific. So it's around about 3,200 miles from the epicenter to Hawaii, and we're expecting it to be arriving any time now. So actually, earlier on the coast of Hawaii, we saw the waves, the sea looked very calm. We're already starting to see the waves building up a little, and this will be the first lot of waves that arrive. So at the moment, it does look calm. We saw some shots earlier. We could see the waves starting to build. But this is the place that has the tsunami warning at the moment. It's because you get to the coastline and the water funnels up and all that energy causes the waves to build. But
it gets more shallow underneath the water. Got it. Yeah, which is why you get waves anyway. And they've already been evacuated, haven't they, from the coast, told to get above 4 floors. I imagine, even though, as you say, they're used to it in that area, people will be very, very frightened there.
I mean, they've said in and up. If you can't go in, go up. But as we heard from one of our correspondents earlier in Hawaii, they're not used to tsunamis there. You know, 3,200 miles away from an earthquake is incredible to think that you could see the impacts of it. But it's not just there. We've obviously been hearing it's everywhere along that Pacific coast, all the way down to New Zealand and Australia, right the way up the coast of Japan, up the western coast of America. Many alerts for tsunamis and warnings for tsunamis. And it's not just one wave that occurs with these tremors continuing. They could be at risk of tsunamis for the next 24 hours.
And just to get a sense of the scale, 21 years ago, that massive, hugely destructive tsunami on Sri Lanka and East Asia on Boxing Day, looking at the numbers, that earthquake, which caused that tsunami, that tsunami is comparable to the earthquake we saw overnight. Does that mean that the tidal wave, the tsunami, the impact could be as big as we saw, for example, in Sri Lanka? Or presumably if the water travels bigger distances, that reduces the energy on impact?
Exactly. So that one, the earthquake was closer to those coastlines, meaning, first of all, there wasn't as much warning for people to evacuate and get away from the coast, and then the impact and the energy was much more ferocious, so the waves were bigger. Many of the warnings at the moment, right along the west coast of America and Hawaii, are saying we're expecting big waves of up to 3 to 4 meters, but they're not expecting catastrophic coastal inundation, which is what happened on the Boxing Day tsunami.
Well, Alaska is much closer to East Russia. I was looking this morning, it's only 50 miles between East Russia and the west coast of Alaska. That's quite a short distance, and that's quite near to the earthquake. Why is it hitting so far south in Hawaii before it hits up on the west coast of Alaska? Because it isn't that much closer.
It's the side that the earthquake was and the way that the energy is dissipated outwards. We have also loads of different types of earthquakes on Earth, but this is the worst kind. It's called a thrust earthquake, where you get 2 tectonic plates, one moving under the other, and that's why so much energy is released. And it's because of the way that moves, and that's what drives the waves across the ocean.
And it drives it south rather than
this one is largely going south and east, right along those western coasts.
That's why people are thinking, well, why would it be Hawaii before San Francisco? Surely San Francisco is closer. But actually, I'm not sure if it is closer, but the point is it's kind of direct south.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I guess that's the brilliance of having all the warning signals that we now have in place that we might have had 100 years ago, to give people that warning when the pattern seems unpredictable, but actually it is. Funny enough, I've got some friends on holiday in Hawaii at the moment. I was just messaging them to see how they're doing, and I think we can go to... we don't have her yet, but we've been talking to Alexa Friedman, who's a journalist there.
In Hawaii.
She's got herself to what seemed like a safer position when she was speaking to us, but she was that kind of limited on information because, as you say, they are not used to that kind of scale. Very used to some brilliant surfing waves, but not used to anything that's a threat to property and life.
It's also quite chilling, isn't it, that although having the time means you can prepare, the waiting is also incredibly stressful.
Exactly. But we already have seen some of those waves moving into the coast of Russia, and they did have coastal inundation a long way, but the waves there weren't so big. So I just think it is, unfortunately, as you say, a watch and wait. But the great thing is with these early warnings, people now have these text alerts on their phone, which means that they can stay safe, which is very different to just a few years ago.
One of the good things about modern technology, I guess. Are you going to stay across it, Laura?
Yeah, I have lots of weather friends all around the world sending me lots of updates from their parts of the world. So, yeah, I'll keep you updated.
All right. Well, let's talk to... Should we talk now to Kevin and Andrew about the other stories of the morning? Obviously, we're going to keep very much across that.
I remember, was it 250,000 people died in the Boxing Day 2004 in Thailand, Sri Lanka, India. Then there was the one in Japan.
2011.
About 20,000.
Which I think was also similar scale to the one we saw last
you saw people being swept along in their cars. You knew how it was going to end. It was
literally dreadful. Some of them sort of on the beach and being swept away. Do you think, though, that, you know, while we're trying to assess the scale of impact, one of the concerns about Sri Lanka was the infrastructure, and one would hope that in Hawaii and along the west coast of America there might be stronger.
Yeah, although Japan is one of the world's most advanced economies and societies, and it didn't save people. And of course, there was also the Fukushima nuclear power plant, which kind of
changed the whole course of history. Because in Germany, the German government's move away from nuclear power was basically prompted by seeing what had happened.
Going on to Russian gas.
Which then caused kind of huge, the German cost of living crisis. But also there was a massive earthquake, I think the second biggest in North American history, in Alaska in 1964, where there was rumours of a tidal wave to come. So, but, you know, of the big stories of earthquakes in the last 100 years, this one is going to be up there in the top 5 or 6. It's amazing.
Yeah, you kind of fear the worst and hope for the best.
Absolutely, and Laura will keep us posted because people may have, you know, friends, relatives, and all sorts.
Relatives on holiday there.
Well, exactly, that's what my friends are doing, you know, thinking they're on a dream holiday. So I'll just, exactly. Everybody will be doing the same thing as me, won't they? This way. Should we talk about some UK news while we watch and wait, as you say? The doctor strike finishes at around 7 today. But not ruling out further strike action, which just leaves us still hoping, doesn't it, that some of the things that Wes Street had indicated might, you know, bring forth a resolution. The conditions and working practice doesn't look hopeful at the moment, does it?
I'm sorry, they're being greedy.
Do you feel they are, Andrew?
I do. They got 22.5% last year. They will say that didn't make up for years of falling behind during austerity, but 22.5% was pretty big. They're going for almost 30% this year. We've now seen the nurses are voting so they could well join them on industrial action. And I thought when Labour swept into power, the NHS would be the very, very strong point. But here we are, industrial action, which is going to completely ruin the government's drive to cut waiting lists, which everybody watching wants to succeed because it affects them.
Except they've got an issue on pay like a lot of other groups, but it's how you respond to that. And both sides now, the health service in England, because of course these strikes are in England, not the other parts of the United Kingdom, and the BMA will assess support and strength and how it happened, because the NHS has been far more robust under Labour in terms of trying to keep operations going. And the BMA didn't get as big a majority of resident doctors, junior doctors, as were hospital doctors, really, minus the consultants is who they are. They'll be looking at the impact. But I would have thought it'll become intensive talks again. The BMA may be tempted to set another strike date to focus minds, their own as well as the government.
They've given themselves a 6-month mandate.
Yeah, well, you get that in law. Right. For your ballot, you have a strike ballot. Legally, it's enforced for 6 months. But the problem for the health secretary is if we gave doctors more pay when they got the biggest increase in the NHS this year, never mind over 3 years. Because nurses are, the Royal College of Nursing are having a ballot. It's not a strike ballot.
And other health workers.
It's an indicative ballot. Ambulance crews.
And teachers and police officers. I mean, it goes much more. What is going on? It's really hard to kind of understand this because, you know, you can see the frustration from the chief executive of the NHS, from Wes Streeting. They would have thought what they did last year was enough. You know, a Labour government saying it's setting out to save the National Health Service, they would have expected people to join in that effort. It's clear Wes Streeting last week thought when he was meeting the most senior BMA leaders, he'd done a deal. They then went back to their bigger committee who said, that's not a deal we're going to do. Why are the junior doctors doing this? Is it simply because they feel aggrieved about pay? Or is there something else going on?
One of their leaders talked about how they were excited about resuming strikes. Then he changed that to energised. Said he'd
Excited?
Said he'd misspoken. I think they've probably got their tails up. They scented blood. You settle a dispute. And let's be honest, if you take the Oliver Twist approach, please, sir, madam, may I have some more? You get thin gruel. The truth is, industrial muscle action normally pays results. And
but the Eye is reporting, though, that amongst other papers, actually, that crucial cancer surgery...
well, there is an impact of it,
You know, and that's where you wonder about public support, as Andrew said.
It will crumble.
I think what's changed here is when junior doctors went on strike in 2023 and 23 and 24... They had a lot of public support, but they also had support from consultants in hospitals. You know, they're seniors, as it were. You know, some of them will go on to become consultants themselves, and from other staff. But I've not seen much evidence of people honking horns past picket lines or saying, "Well on you, we're with you." I've not seen overt hostility either, and so I think they're operating in a different climate, and they're going to have to think about that because doctors are not uncaring. They know their action has an impact on patients. And yes, some of their leaders will say the legal responsibility is on the health service to provide the care, but you are part of that health service as a doctor.
And it won't sit comfortably with a lot of doctors, as you say, as well as things. We're just going to check in on the situation in Hawaii now. We're joined by Alexa Friedman, a journalist at Hawaii News Now. Alexa, we spoke to you a little bit earlier on. You were getting limited information. What more do you know now in your situation?
Well, so about 30 minutes ago was when they were anticipating the first wave might hit. We have not had that yet. As of a moment ago, at least. We're seeing some receding, though, in the water. So that's a sign of things to come. Yeah, we're expecting it to come in waves. No pun intended.
No, quite. I mean, you're a journalist. You're used to covering news stories, but to be living and breathing it in this way, when you see that water receding, that must be very... very eerie, because we all know that can precede devastation.
Absolutely, yeah. And, I mean, we're all just... It's like the calm before the storm here. We're all just sitting on pins and needles waiting to see what's going to happen. It's pretty scary. And
Alexa, just tell us, what time of day is it there in Hawaii? What are people kind of doing at the moment? Are they're home from work? Are they in bed yet?
Well, it's 7:45 p.m. here, so everyone, pretty much everything in the state kind of shut down. A lot of summer programs for kids because we're on holiday now, and things like that. A lot of office buildings have closed early. So I'm pretty sure most people have already headed home or headed to safety. But yeah, it looks like the sun has just gone down. It's just getting dark here now. I mean, what's scary is that the sunset looked like the same as any other night. Like you wouldn't know anything was coming if you didn't know.
We were just looking there at classic pictures of Hawaii, of children enjoying a beach coming out of the sea. I'm assuming the beaches and those holiday moments are absolutely deserted now, aren't they?
Yes, at least they definitely should be. I saw, and I couldn't like hear the audio, but at the time when they were evacuating people from the beaches, I did see like a woman working on a sand castle for a long time, and she didn't appear to want to leave when the officer told her something. But since then, it looks like the beach has been cleared out.
Thank you very much indeed, Alexa Friedman at Hawaii News. I know you'll keep us in touch in the next couple of hours, and do stay safe. And that's a message not just to you, but to all the people in Hawaii. We can just imagine the worry and the fear people are facing at the moment. We'll go back to Alexa.
Before the storm, isn't it?
It is, as she said,
Literally.
and it's that eerie thing that we've all seen represented in so many movies and
they're about to
TV
live through
shows,
it.
and they're living it. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So the last couple of days on the in the news panel, we've been talking about what Keir Starmer was going to do about Gaza. Had his meeting with Donald Trump, wanting a ceasefire under big pressure, not just from members of Parliament, but in the cabinet, to move on this recognition of the state of Palestine, which most countries have done. America hasn't, Britain hasn't historically, other European countries haven't. But France said a few days ago they would. Actually, Keir Starmer yesterday, after the emergency cabinet meeting, probably issued a stronger, more forward statement than people were expecting. It's a very big shift in British foreign policy.
It is a significant shift. I was sceptical it would happen, but it has. Before he was appalled at what was going on. Now he's appalled and going to do something about it. Quite what the impact will be, we'll have to wait and see. I wouldn't have been conditional the way he has.
Why is that?
His condition is the aid has to go into Gaza. There has to be a ceasefire, hostages released as part of that.
He hasn't said that.
And then, his conditions, and also there's got to be a commitment from Israel not to annex the West Bank, the occupied West Bank, because remember, this isn't just about Gaza, it's also the West Bank and East Jerusalem. And then there has to be a commitment and a process to a two-state solution, because Netanyahu has held out against that. Netanyahu has held up maps showing no Palestine, from the river to the sea, from the Jordan to the Med, no Palestine at all. And he has extremist members of his cabinet who have no intention ever of recognising Palestine.
This is quite a complicated argument, isn't it? Because Keir Starmer is saying that if Israel agrees to a ceasefire and starts talks about a two-state solution and lets in the aid, then he won't recognise the state of Palestine. But if they don't do those things, he
won't
will.
recognise in September, because he then goes back to the long-standing position of the UK government, Conservatives as well as Labour, that they will recognise a state of Palestine at some pivotal moment in a peace process.
I think what Ed's saying is that's quite complicated, because it puts a motivation, in a sense, on Israel to not start talks, because they don't want the state recognised. Right. So it's obviously a big symbolic moment, but the reality is hard to unpick, isn't it?
I don't think Hamas want a two-state solution. Hamas want one state. Hamas.
Yeah, but
they have not given back the hostages. There are still over 50 hostages in captivity. So this is a very perilous path.
But this
isn't
just about Hamas. It's about Palestinians.
Well, no, Hamas are still in charge of Gaza.
Well, I don't think they are in charge of Gaza anymore. I think you'll find that the ruins are largely occupied by Israeli forces.
State going to be drawn?
I mean, Keir Starmer says that Hamas no longer being in power is one of his conditions. It must have to be out of the way.
Can I just say this?
It's quite complicated.
Can I just say,
won't accept that.
Can I say where the borders are drawn, Israel has internationally recognised boundaries from 1967, but there's Gaza, then there's East Jerusalem, which is occupied, and the West Bank, which is occupied, although Gaza is occupied too now. But there's about 500,000 plus Israeli settlers have now moved into the West Bank. So there's no doubt it's going to be an incredibly tortuous process going forward. But if you believe in a two-state solution, one of those states is Israel, live securely and safely within its international boundaries, and then there is a Palestinian state. But you're right, there'll be a row over the borders because Israel does not want to give up large parts of the West Bank,
but it is symbolic.
If indeed any of the West Bank.
But it is symbolic of a big change, isn't it? British governments in the past wouldn't have done this because the Americans would have been furious and the Israelis would have been furious. They have now done it. The Americans are saying that's up to them. And the Israelis are furious and Keir Starmer doesn't seem to care. And that sort of suggests that the British approach to Israel is quite different from what it was now. It's more confrontational.
It is, but more significantly, the President said it wasn't even discussed with Starmer in their meeting up in Scotland. But what really matters is what America do. It doesn't matter what we do. It's symbolic, it's virtue signalling by the Labour government, and a lot of it is driven, I'm afraid, by a fear that Labour MPs are going to lose their seats to this insurgent Corbyn party, which is very close to which wants peace in Gaza and wants a separate...
There's 140 countries around the world recognise the state of Palestine. I think it's 193, is it, in the United Nations? So that's the majority. India does, big democracy. Ireland does. Sweden, Norway do. France is about. I would have thought it would have been a lot cleaner to take the Emmanuel Macron position of France. Spain recognises too, rather than the conditionality. But it gives Netanyahu a way forward should he wish to take it, but I don't think he does.
Quick one. We discussed yesterday, Peter Kyle lays into Nigel Farage for ditching the online safety bill, says that Jimmy Savile would have benefited from that. Nigel Farage lashes back and demands an apology. 24 hours on, who's winning the battle? The government and Peter Kyle or Nigel Farage?
Kyle's not going to back down, is he?
Kyle's winning this. And I can see the unfairness from Farage's point of view, and he's not backing Jimmy Savile, but there's no doubt what he advocates would benefit predators and abusers online. And he hasn't thought it through because he's taken with these little core of people who think, oh, you're cracking down on free speech. Well, what is it you can't say you want to say?
It's pretty expensive.
When you look at the net, it's full of...
That's the trouble. And we know that Nigel Farage loves the public spat.
Yeah, to link one of our most senior politicians with the most infamous paedophile in British history.
Who was the last person who did that to a senior politician in Britain?
Boris Johnson.
Boris Johnson. And he was accused of outrageous gutter politics by Keir Starmer and the current Culture Secretary, Chris Bryant. So it's OK for Peter Kyle to engage in gutter politics, but not for the
But no, it wasn't. It was because of the allegation over the no prosecution.
Usual double standards.
Come on, now. Farage thinks no one will roll in the mud with him, but Kyle is doing it this time. But Kyle will win because there'll be parents watching who will want their children protected from the most horrific abuse online.
We're debating
Farage would remove those protections.